Hey y'all, and welcome in. I'm Emily. This is Freaked Out and Flawless, where trauma-wired humans come to do the real work and level up from the inside out. Let's get into it. There was a season of my life where I tried to get inside before my neighbors could see my head above the fence line. Not because anything had happened, not because they had ever done anything worrisome. There was no drama. It was just the idea that they might see me. They might know I was outside. They might clock my patterns, learn my routines. I was worried my mailman knew too much about me from simply delivering my mail, so I didn't check my mail. I went inside if my landlord wandered outside. I kept my blinds closed most of the time. My husband did the grocery shopping, most of the errands, all that. I essentially only left the house for my kids' medical appointments. And I want to be clear, this wasn't agoraphobia in the clinical sense. I could leave. I just believed, somewhere under all that conscious thought and obvious distortion of reality, I truly believed that being seen was dangerous, that being known was dangerous, that the safest version of me was the invisible one, and the safest version of the world was the environment I could control, which was my home. I thought that's just who I was, private, cautious, and careful. Newsflash, it wasn't caution. This core belief had been running my entire life, without my knowledge, without my consent, and without a single moment of me truly choosing it. That's what we're talking about today. Thoughts, beliefs, and core beliefs. Before we go anywhere, I want to make something clear. We are not our thoughts. Our thoughts are not our identity. We live in the mind space most of the time, but the mind is not who we are. It's the sandbox, the bulletin board, the HQ processing center. It's always talking, even when it doesn't make sense. And not everything it says carries the same weight. A passing thought is just awareness, moving, quick, momentary, usually not activating. Oh, look, a squirrel. It might trigger something deeper, or it might just pass on by. A belief is something we've decided is true about ourselves or the world, often in response to fitting into a role. I can't leave the house without my eyeliner. A good student sacrifices her social life. That pretty girl is an airhead. These are the stories we tell ourselves about who we are supposed to be and the world around us. A core belief goes deeper. It shapes your actual decision making. The person who goes to church every Sunday, that's a core belief about faith and community guiding behavior. The person who chooses a vegan lifestyle, that's exemplifying core beliefs about ethics and the body and the environment. Core beliefs are the operating system underneath everything else. They come from experience, primarily in childhood and adolescence, and that comes from environment, culture, religion, peers, family. Every significant experience creates a pattern, and patterns, repeated and reinforced, become core beliefs. Most of us have never examined ours. We just live inside them. I want to share something about where my core belief came from, but I'm going to do it briefly and I want to tell you why. There's a counterintuitive truth about telling our stories. Talking about trauma can be powerful and necessary, but there's a point where retelling becomes rehearsing, and rehearsing keeps that neural pathway lit up, activated, and reinforced, which is the exact opposite of what we're trying to do. Remember from episode 3, your brain doesn't distinguish between a real experience and a vividly imagined one. So if you keep running the movie, your nervous system keeps responding to it as present tense. And that means we can't replaster neurons that we won't stop activating. So I'll tell you enough to make the connection, and then we move forward because that's actually the work. There was a moment in my childhood where I thought I was alone. I thought both my parents were at work and I was home alone. I wasn't. My stepdad was actually following me home from school, hiding in the house and watching me all without me knowing. So things I did in private, in what I believed my own safe space, was used against me harshly. Things like TV shows I wasn't supposed to watch, well, I watched them. I did things like pretend to take my shower and lied about it. I might have, had derogatory conversations about my crush in the mirror. And even for things that were out of line, the punishment I received far outweighed the offenses. My nervous system concluded one thing that day: being seen is dangerous, even in your own home. Even when you think no one is watching, someone, somewhere, is. There is no safe place. That was the installation moment. One experience, one conclusion. Decades of decisions made from that single point on, without me ever consciously choosing it. This set a precedent that still runs live in my nervous system. Every day, I still keep showing up to do the work in this area. That belief didn't just change my behavior, it became me. I grew up in a cloud of shame, feeling unwanted, feeling like a bad kid, like somehow God had made an error bringing me here to this planet at all. I became two people: bubbly and smoky on the outside, the version that can light up a room, make everyone laugh, be exactly what the moment needed. And underneath that, pessimistic, volatile, and dark. The meanest version of myself was always just one wrong move away from the surface. I was constantly scanning every room I walked into, not because I wanted to, because I had to. Who's watching? What do they know? What will they use? And I spent years testing people, looking for someone who would finally stay, finally prove that I was worth knowing. Of course, I was looking for connection in all the wrong places and with all the wrong people, because somewhere in my wiring, I really believed that the right people wouldn't want me anyway. That's not a personality. That's a core belief that got so deep it started making decisions I didn't know I was making. That's what unexamined beliefs do. They don't just influence your thinking, they become your thinking. They become your identity. They become the story you tell yourself about who you are, until you can't tell the difference between the belief and the person. And you can't rewrite a story you don't know you're telling. I was bone achingly lonely. Now, in my son's medical world, community was built in. Therapists, doctors, other NICU families. Connection comes with that territory. But in personal life, I had made myself so small and so invisible, so unreachable, that I looked around one day and realized nobody would know if I rotted to dust. No impact, no tribe, no one to compare makeup with or try on dresses with or raise my kids alongside. And my daughter's approaching school age, and I thought, I really want mom friends. I want social events. I want our kids to grow up together, and I really want a life that looks like something. That was the moment. Not a breakthrough, not a therapist unlocking something, just bone aching loneliness and a decision. I don't want to live this way anymore. So I had to start going out. I chose things like a megachurch so I wouldn't be swarmed, non denominational so there'd be less doctrine. I joined a Bible study group and I showed up most of the time. I started doing errands, grocery shopping. I established safe public spots, my favorite thrift store, the craft store, places I could practice being a person who existed in the world. And slowly, reluctantly, I had to accept something my nervous system had been fighting for decades. People will see me existing. They will even know some things about me. And that's okay. The belief didn't change first. The behavior changed first. And the behavior, repeated, accumulated, one safe public spot at a time, started rewriting the belief from the inside out. That's cognitive work in real life. It's not always a worksheet. Sometimes it's just choosing the mega church because it's big enough that you won't feel swarmed. Now I want to give you the framework underneath what I just described, because what I did intuitively without knowing that it had a name turns out to be two of the most researched and effective approaches to cognitive change that exist. I want to be transparent with you. I did this entire process before I knew what any of it was called. I didn't know I was doing cognitive behavioral therapy and neuro-linguistic programming. I didn't know I was doing CBT when I stood at my front door asking myself if the mail carrier actually remembered my magazine subscription. And I didn't know I was using NLP when I started celebrating getting to the car as a win. I just knew I was drowning and I needed a way through. The fact that it has names and frameworks and decades of research behind it, that came later. And honestly, that's been one of the more validating discoveries of my healing journey. I wasn't making it up, I was doing the work. I just didn't have the language yet. Now, what are those things I was mentioning? Cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, was developed by Dr. Aaron Beck in the 1960s and is one of the most researched therapeutic frameworks in existence. The core premise is simple but radical. Our thoughts are not facts, they are interpretations. And interpretations can be examined, challenged, and changed. CBT gives you a structured way to do exactly that. Catch the thought, examine the evidence, and consciously choose a more accurate response. It asks one central question: is this thought actually true? Not is it familiar, not does it feel true, is it actually, evidentially true right now? That's the detective work of the mind. Neuro-Linguistic Programming, or NLP, was developed by Richard Bandler and John Grinder in the 1970s. Where CBT works with the content of your thoughts, NLP works with the patterns and programs running underneath them. It's less concerned with whether a thought is true and more interested in interrupting the automatic sequence that fires before you even have a conscious thought. Think of it as reprogramming the pattern at the source, installing a new response before the old one has time to activate. It's faster, more experiential, and sometimes feels almost counterintuitive. But combined with CBT's detective work, it's powerful. Together, these two approaches work at different levels of the same system. CBT examines the belief, NLP replaces the pattern. One asks, is this true? The other asks, what if we tried this instead? And both connect back to what we covered in episode 3, Hebb's Law, neuroplasticity, the body building new pathways through repeated new experience. CBT does it through conscious examination and repetition. NLP does it through pattern interruption and anchoring. Both are building a new road, and the more you travel the new road, the more natural it becomes. I want to give you something practical, and I want to start by saying this is not a worksheet. This is not a 5-step program you complete once and frame on your wall. This is a practice. It's messy. It's definitely non-linear. Sometimes you're going to go 2 steps forward and 1 step back, just like everything else we've covered. Here's where you start. Something activates you. It could be small. It could be the sound of a car coming down the road or a knock at the door, an email notification, someone's tone of voice. Don't label it fear. Get specific. What activated that? And what does that mean to me? Not just danger in general, but specifically what? For me, it wasn't people in general that scared me. It was people knowing about me, knowing my patterns, knowing my routines. That type of specificity matters because you can't work with a vague feeling. You can work with a specific belief. Once you have this specific thing, sit with it. This is where journaling earns its place. Not to rehearse the story, remember, we talked about that, but to get past the initial shame wall, past the I'm bad response, and into the why do I feel this way question. And that wall is almost always there. The shame is gonna come through first. You're gonna have to find ways to move through it to get to the actual belief underneath. So carefully, without diving into full trigger territory, start connecting the dots. This behavior is showing up in my life. Where did it come from? What experience taught me this was true? You don't need to excavate the whole trauma. You just need enough of the origin to understand, oh, well, this belief made sense then, in that moment, into that version of me. And then you ask the most important question of the whole process. How does this fit my reality now? Not then, now. Is this actually true in my current life? Am I actually in danger? Or am I running a 15-year-old program in a situation that has nothing to do with what installed it? This is CBT in action. Catch the thought, examine the evidence, test it against reality. For me, it sounded like the mail carrier delivers to hundreds of homes every day. Could I remember the bank statements, magazine subscriptions, and credit card offers of a random stranger on my route? No. And why would they want to know that much about me? I'm just a stranger to them too. That's not toxic positivity. That's reality testing. Finding the actual evidence instead of running on the feeling. And then NLP comes in with the pattern interruption. I had to gear up for days to run an errand. Often at the beginning, I wouldn't make it out. I'd get ready, I'd try, and then I'd pause at the door, frozen, and just not be able to go. And then the shame spiral would start. Only a worthless person can't go to the store. Only a weak person is scared. Only you would find a way to make something simple so dramatic. These are the things I would tell myself. And I had to learn to catch that spiral before it ran into completion. I had to ground myself, start an art project, get into some yoga, cook a fancy meal, or maybe not a fancy meal, maybe my favorite simple thing, which is noodles and cheese. I had to find something that immersed me somewhere other than my thoughts. That's pattern interruption. I didn't reframe anything, I just ran a different program instead. Over time, I started practicing catching myself on the way out the door. No specific thoughts, even just fear in my body. Cold fingers, sweaty palms, pitting out, irritable, those weird rumbles in the belly. So I'd shake my hands, tap my feet, breathe intentionally, get to the car, and I'd celebrate that. Start the car, it's a success. It's further than the last time. Keep going, girl, keep going. I was anchoring a new response to an old trigger. Self-hype, small wins, forward motion. Over time, the front door stopped meaning danger. It started meaning, let's see how far we get today. That's neuroplasticity in real life. That's Hebb's law running in your favor for once. You're building a new road, not by destroying that old one, but by making the new one more traveled. And here's the thing nobody really tells you about this work. You don't have to get it perfect. You don't have to complete the reframe before you take action. Sometimes the action comes first and the belief catches up later. I had to start going to the craft store before I believed it was a safe place. The belief didn't lead the behavior. The behavior built the belief. One safe public spot at a time. One small win at a time. One moment of catching the thought instead of becoming it. That's the work. Your journal prompt this week. Think of a time you caught yourself on autopilot, reacting to the present from a past experience. When you finally noticed that pattern, what did it feel like to see it? And did anything shift in how you held that belief once you could name it? And your grace plan. I mean this one deeply. There is no new habit being built on this information right now. Right now, we are just looking around the mind space together. We've already been practicing anchoring, taking up space, and feeling experiences in our body to process and release. That is a lot. You've already shown up, and that is a ton of work right there. So make a check mark, pat yourself on the back, give yourself some kudos. Anything else you manage this week, that's bonus work. And give yourself credit for it. Trying in this room in Flawless is the work. Next week, we will be able to carry this work to the next level. So don't get caught up in shoulds and needs and have-tos. Just keep noticing and keep practicing one moment of safety at a time. That woman who was afraid for her mailman to know she existed, she's still here, still rewriting the story, still finding out who she is when nobody needs anything from her, just like you. All right, my lovely diamonds, as we close for the day, remember, you've got this. And if you don't yet, you are on the way there. Just keep trying one moment, one signal at a time. We're all a little freaked out and flawless with or without PTSD. And we are right on time, because now is all we have anyway. So let it be as it is. You are worth it. Alright, you can find me anytime on Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, or freakedoutflawless.com. Come on over to the Facebook group and gather for our live living room on Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Mountain Standard. I'd love to meet you, and it helps me stay inspired. This is Emily Braveheart signing off. See you next time.